over those last few matches of the regular season.
Absolutely, and right now for Weibo, I just want some winning lanes out of them. I think winning lanes are going to be the most important thing possible, because they've just been losing out in every single lane, and it's been not allowing Jiejie to get involved anywhere.
A lot of junglers still available that can potentially accomplish that feat, but it looks like LGD at this point going to lock in the Jace in the jungle role. Takeaway from Zika, also a takeaway from Jiejie, who played it in their last series against JD Gaming. Potentially have some flexibility. Tangyuan on the Jace, certainly something that he has had experience on in the past as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and for right now, for Weibo, again, like we've been saying, we really want something that they can play aggressively throughout the early stages of the game. There's tons of the top tier of junglers still available. The Lee Sin would be the most aggressive of any of those pickups. I'd be surprised if you unlock that in right at the very beginning, and instead, Weibo are going to pivot, get themselves the Ezreal, the Bard, one of those bot lanes that's super safe, can get quite aggressive, but also just unlocks the Heng to not just have to sit in this bot lane as he has been doing quite a lot of so far, and just go match up alongside Jiejie, get involved in these other lanes, exert pressure elsewhere, and hopefully not just get them run over like they have been in these previous games.
Okay, the Ezreal Bard has had some success for Weibo. This was more along the lines of what we were seeing that worked well for them when the Hank had subbed in, right? Get them onto team fighting players, don't have to focus on them dominating the early game, mostly just helping Elk get to his godlike team fighting in the later stages. Bot lane likely to be finished up for LGD on this 2-3, and it is a big slam of the gauntlet. MF Nautilus to go up against this Ezreal Bard. Cassante for Zika as we head into the second phase of bans.
Yeah, I was going to say, when LGD picked themselves that Nautilus, it was always going to be something very aggressive down in the bot lane. They love pairing up alongside either this Misfortune, as they've gone for today, or they've even paired up alongside the Draven. I think that would have been a little bit too rich, even for the way they've been playing so far. So instead, it is just going to be a ton of just wombo combo damage available to you, but with the Jace picked up as well, you've also got that poke potential to be playing with. It gives you some range, which is really helpful into the Ezreal. Obviously the Ezreal going to give a ton of poke damage over to this Weibo comp, and with the Cassante, you've got the beginnings of a nice front-to-back teamfight composition, sort of composition that Weibo have shown us great success on previously. They're going to very much need themselves a control mage into the mid lane to really play around, in terms of what Xiaohu has really liked to pick up for himself. A lot of those top-tier champions have now gone. It'd be interesting to see if he's going to be able to pick up something like the Azir as kind of the remaining top champion in his pool.
Azir and Aurora, I suppose. You know, he hasn't had too much success on the Aurora this split, but historically been one of his more comfortable champions with his time on Weibo Gaming. A lot of junglers being focused down here. Lee Sin and Pantheon taken away from Jiejie, so looks like they are still respecting the former world champion. Xin Zhao, though, still available and still one of the top tier junglers on this current patch.
And I think this is a bit of a mistake right here out of LGD to not ban away this Xin Zhao. It's one of the best pickups into this Misfortune because she ults and you say, no, I don't care. And we saw it a ton at the end of last split where both the Misfortune and the Xin Zhao were really high priority. It just wasn't working out whenever you left this champion up and available, so LGD, they're going to have to find a way to work around that. At the moment, looks like they were thinking about potentially grabbing themselves something like the Azir or the Victor. Instead, they're just going to pick up something for Burdol up in the top lane. It is going to be the Yorick. He played it once. I don't think it was a win for them, though.
It's something that, you know, will do well into the Cassante, though. A little bit better than maybe the Jace. Now, this is a very interesting final pickup. Will this Jace be going to the jungle for Heng or to the mid lane for Tangyuan? Diana Hover doesn't really answer that question, if I'm being completely honest. Still a lot of different directions this can go. The Galio certainly maybe a little bit more certain about where we will be taking these players. Heng going to be manning the Jace and Tangyuan on a playmaking mid laner.
Yeah, you've got a real front-to-back look right here coming out from Weibo. They're going to need a little bit of extra engage that's non-committal, which will really help them out. They've obviously got the Tempered Fate, but it will be great to have something else out of the mid lane. I think the Talia makes a lot of sense in this situation, alongside the Bard too. You've got a great three-man roaming squad to get around the map. Instead, they're going to take a little bit of a different approach. As we said, one of the other pickups that we've seen Xiaohu go towards quite a lot is this Aurora. But the Aurora into the Galio, it's a pretty tough look overall. It's unlikely that you're going to be able to get that much going into the mid lane. Same kind of thing expected up in the top lane too. And Weibo, we asked for winning lanes. Maybe they can get something going bot lane.
Yeah, Xiaohu locking in comfort, I guess. You're really going to have to make something happen in the first couple of levels before Tangyuan gets that shield of Duran, gets a lot of those extra resistances, the magic damage shield. Maybe instead just playing for later on, where the Between Worlds will be very useful in some of these, I would imagine, rather scrappy team fights, right? Where you have Jace flying in, MF ultimates being blocked here by the Crescent Guard. LGD really want to play front to back. I feel like Weibo have a little bit more dive in their kit that ends up actually potentially paying off for them.
Yeah, if they're able to get some big dive into the backline out of Xiaohu once he gets 2 items, that's going to be really big. And they do once again have a composition that spikes pretty dang hard on 1 item. You get that initial item coming through for Elk, for Jiejie. Now you're able to unlock and really go and try to compete into your opponents. But we've been saying that for 3 games in a row at this point, and in the previous 2 it did not work out. Weibo, they've shown that Jiejie just doesn't want to step up. He doesn't want to be aggressive enough and really try to make the most of his early ganking champions. He's going to have to change that in this game, because if LGD are allowed a chill early game to get those first couple of items going and then into these team fights unleash, they're going to be in a really nice spot.
Obviously, Alex Ezreal, a signature pick for him, but eyes have to also be on Xiaohu, taking on his former protege in the mid lane, Tangyuan. Complete clean sweep in the works. The Spring Tiger of Weibo Gaming is going to have to wake up and start their path towards a reverse sweep.
Let's have a look at what's happening during this early pathing, as if Jiejie gets bullied around in the early game once again, this is likely to be a 3-0. Instead, like everybody's just going to be starting on opposite sides of the map right now. And I do really like the fact that you're just looking to get as aggressive as possible from Weibo. Play into that, lean into that. Don't be sitting back too much earlier on, because as they get later on into the game, things are still going to be working out for them. There's Cassante getting tankier and tankier, right? The Ezreal hitting harder and harder. And there's a real band of time for LGD, about 3 items, where this composition fully comes online and you can look to blow people up. But before that and after that, not going to be as strong.
With the runes as well. Interesting to see the Storm Raider surge onto Tangyuan on the Galio. Obviously, Phase Rush was very popular on this champion, but you'd imagine this means a little bit more damage going to be in Tangyuan's build this time around, because you have to hit that 25% HP threshold to unlock the bonus movement speed. So maybe that means a little bit, less defensive abilities available for LGD. Something that may be helpful to a player like Xiaohu.
Indeed, and if he's able to really make that work for his squad, as we've been saying, right, just desperately trying to get something going overall. I'm going to look at these individual lane matchups, kind of as we're expecting at the moment. LGD, they've got winning lane up in the top side, they've got a neutralized lane in the mid lane. As much as Tangyuan's going to get pushed around a little bit earlier on, very unlikely to die with the Galio. Plenty of mobility, plenty of tankiness even early on. And so if you want to get involved in one of these lanes, it's really going to have to be bot lane for Jiejie. With both junglers starting towards the top side of the map and heading on down, we could potentially see something happen, but there's a push coming through already, and it really makes it quite tricky to try to step up.
Trading again. This is another time where the Heng hits level 3 before Elk does. I'm interested to see how that ends up. The mid lane have Tangyuan landing a taunt onto Xiaohu. Not going to find too much extra damage. Just going to be full clears for these junglers before eventually heading over both to the bot side scuttle.
They are, and we'll see if there's going to be any decision to try go get involved from Heng. I'm going to be very surprised to actually end up seeing that happening. Instead, should just be the resets coming on through, and the bot lane Scuttle Crab will be picked up right here for Jiejie. That's nice, gives you a little bit of extra survivability when you're pushing so far forwards. The bit of extra vision is going to be lovely.
Yeah, so Jiejie gets their first. Hey, it's a better start than game 1, or game 2. We can say that for sure.
It's pretty hard to have a worse start early on.
Yeah, well, we'll see what Jiejie is able to do the rest of the way in this early to mid game, which Weibo certainly have struggled in, specifically in that last game. It seemed like the individual farm leads were working in their favor, just not this time around. YCX appears for a second up in the mid lane, but not going to find anything onto the Aurora.
However, both of the junglers are going to be working towards this top lane, topside Scuttle Crab. With a slight push coming through from Tangyuan, he might be able to move a little bit earlier on, but both mid laners are going to show face. I'm going to be able to pick this one up, so no double Scuttle Crab coming on over. Things continue to be nice and even so far, and you could feel a little bit of the trepidation coming through from Weibo, right? They've put themselves in a really awkward position. You don't want to be down 2 games to a team that everybody assumes was beneath you, Shaoye.
top goes. Honor spells already. YCX flashes over to just land that root onto Elk. Elk flashes forward, not able to take down the MF. That would have been a crucial 2v2 kill in the early game, but it's going to be LGD's bot lane that gets out with their lives.
Still, you blow the flash and the barrier away from Xiaoye in a situation where Elk is just going to be able to keep peppering him through with those Qs, make him suffer during the early laning phase. You can already see about a 10 CS coming on through, and that's not going to get too much better as we go on. This bottom lane might end up needing a little bit of jungle intervention. Of course, the Jiejie's not one of the best ganking junglers that you have available.
Definitely not in the early game, but again, you know what the power of Jiejie. Once we get that item, first item, locked in, maybe the hubris here for Heng. You already have the serrated Dirk in inventory. He's walking down towards the bottom side as LGD, again with that 2-0 lead, looking to do something that they have not done in a while, and that is to make it to top 8, and also just to win a play-in series. The last time that happened was, again, back in summer of 2024. This is, it's back-to-back losses in this Knights Rivals / play-in stage for them in 2025. Maybe makes a difference here. Xiaoye maybe is in some trouble. There's a nice magical journey coming through from the Heng. They're going to get first blood over to Elk.
And this is what we really wanted to see, right? As we talked about, the bot lane was most likely going to be the best place to be looking for some ganks, and that's just a mistake right there out of Xiaoye. Already blew his flash and his barrier in the previous play. No right to be stepping up to the wave like he did. Doesn't look like that's going to turn straight on into a Drake, however, as you do have Heng in the bottom side of the map, and with some decent pressure still happening in the mid lane. Jiejie not feeling comfortable to step straight up to this one. Xiaoye going to return back to the lane, and we'll see if we do end up with a skirmish, as the Chemtech Drake is available and could potentially be enticing.
Damage onto YCX. First Dragon not started up by Jiejie just yet. Weibo certainly feel they're posturing for it. Nice trading here for Burdol up in the top side. Again, a winning matchup for the York. You're going to get a lot of push with these ghouls on the top side. Zika is going to have to eventually just burn the all out to try to force this York out of lane. But that hasn't happened just yet. That means that this top laner for LGD that has performed so well this series so far is going to continue to add to his already 15 CS lead.
Things are just gonna keep on as they are for the minute. We're really waiting on that first item coming on through to really accelerate the pace of this game, to get Heng online, to get Jiejie online, to really unlock these junglers into being as aggressive as possible. And as we've been saying, right, it's the 1-2 item spike that really helps out LGD. So they would love to get an early kill if at all possible right here. He's going to be hunting for Jiejie, but he has some support in the area and might just be caught out himself.
They just charge forward. Heng able to get out by stealing away the red buff, so a win for him, but it comes at the expense of his flash. Might end up becoming valuable for this grub fight that will be made at, at the ready in the next minute or so.
So far, we've seen all of the grubs going over to LGD. They've been all over those. Tangyuan takes a big chunk of damage here.
Between worlds for Xiaohu. He's looking for the solo bolo. In goes the hero's entrance, and the hero this time is Heng, who is just in ulti range for the Galio to escape.
Oh, a bit of a hero's exit right there, necessary to keep Tangyuan alive. This is the thing, the second that Xiaohu does have that ulti, he can all of a sudden threaten on forwards. Xiaoye again taking a huge chunk of damage, is going to survive this initial engage, and is the bullet time to just give a little bit of a tickle back towards Elk. As you can see, tons of pings coming on down towards this Drake, who will be started up by Jiejie, but LGD are bringing all of their members to the area.
It's an aggressive play by the Weibo bottom lane, but now Elk is out of mana, not going to really be a factor around this dragon. Doesn't look like Heng will be either. He's more focused on clearing out his jungle camps on the bottom side. Red buff into Krugs into probably head back to base combo, while the first dragon should go over to Weibo in this one.
Yeah, potentially if Tangyuan did have that hero's entrance available to him still, if you hadn't have just taken a huge chunk of damage off of Xiaoye, you could have looked to compete onto this one, but instead, everybody just going to back off, and Weibo looking to do the exact same thing once again.
Another great magical journey from the Heng, followed up by the Crescent Guard of Jiejie. Xiaoye gets hit by the wind, becomes lightning, but nothing will become more of it in the bottom side. Top lane fighting between Zika and Burdol. All out comes out from the Cassante, able to potentially find a solo kill. Nice splash away from the Pathmaker, and the Untopo strikes. And so Burdol will not go down, while Heng is able to claim all 3 of these grubs.
The bot side of the map, a real focus point right here for Weibo, whereas LGD playing around the top side as much as possible. As we've been saying, all 3 grubs going to go over for the 3rd game in a row, and this is an even better game for it, right? Anytime you've got yourself that Galio and that Yorick. Two champions that are really going to love sitting in the side lane and then joining up with the rest of the team. So this is a big benefit, and LGD, they're taking these grubs when it makes sense for them, right? When Weibo are not putting any real focus onto it themselves, but Weibo are obviously making something happen down in the bottom lane, and the fact that so far you've been able to get a kill onto Elk, and more importantly, Shaoye has had his flash down every single time, it's just putting so much extra pressure onto this bottom side, and it's allowing Elk to play very calm and collected. He's very close to picking up that first item now, where he's truly on.
Yeah, but looks like Xiaoye has other ideas than to just fight Elk all the time, maybe making a play towards Zika. We saw it work for LGD in game number 1, and this K'Sante no longer has an ultimate at his disposal. Jiejie and the Heng are on the way, so should not be a kill onto the big tank. Bullet time comes out, able to be eaten away from by Zika. Should be able to survive and clear this rest of the wave out. Interestingly enough, LGD once again going for this play without any of their quests completed, so they're going to be delayed a little bit while Elk picks up a lot of gold on the bottom lane.
Absolutely, he does. At least he's not going to be able to pick up this full tower as Burdol heads down into the bottom side of the map, and you can see the power of this MF still strong enough to be pushing the members of Weibo away. They don't feel comfortable to get them off of this tower, and the pressure will just continue. So far, this game is dead on even though. LGD Weibo not being able to distinguish each other throughout the early game, and that definitely feels like a benefit to Weibo. Their composition scales really nicely on into the later stages of the game, and the fact that they're doing so much better early on than they did in the previous game adds a lot of confidence.
Will that confidence be enough though? Heng in the jungle position. He hasn't done too much in terms of ganking, but he has racked up a nice farm advantage, getting close to level 9 at this point. On the other side, Jiejie hasn't been able to accomplish too much other than burning a lot of summoner spells onto Shaoye. Summoner spells are nice, but you want to eventually capitalize those into kills. It has resulted in Elk picking up about a gold lead of about 1,000 or so, but not necessarily the full lead that Weibo would want at this point, although I would say they scale pretty well into the late game as well.
Absolutely they do, but still, getting this early lead is really helpful. Elk is now going to come back out of base with that Trinity Force completed. He's also been stacking his tier very quickly as well, so he's put himself in a very strong spot to hit that 2-item spike and really burst out onto the map. But even just having this first item completed right here for Elk and for Xiaohu makes the skirmishing power of Weibo so much
Nice hook
stronger.
by YCX. It finds Xiaohu, even though he uses the jump to try to escape the Tempered Fate, only going to have Xiaohu thinking about how he got caught out by Heng to get the first kill over to LGD.
Oh, just talking about how it's great for him to have that first item, but going down straight after, not really going to give you any benefit. And now Heng stealing things away from Jiejie, once again going to take the entire set of chickens. And this is just why it's so great to be able to take down this mid lane. It allows you to step up into the jungle a little bit more, steal things away, and just delay, again, what Weibo are trying to put together for themselves. Not really a kill at a particularly important time, a minute until we're going to get the next Drake spawning. With Weibo picking the first one of those up, they're not even worrying too much about giving another one over to LGD, but still, picking up that gold, grabbing a little bit of extra momentum right here for LGD is nice.
Very much so. LGD on the board now, and getting closer and closer to eventually that 2-item power spike that we were saying they could be very strong at a potential 5v5. I think after that, you're really looking at split pushing here for the side of Burdol on this Yorick and just allowing your MF to clear out as many of these waves as possible. You have the second dragon of the game spawning in 30 seconds. Right now, Weibo in a good position to try to contest it. Not Zika though, he's getting pushed out once again by the Maiden of Burdol.
Yeah, I mean, the Maiden at this point, pretty strong. Oh. Okay, YCX needed a little bit of a flash to be able to get away from that play, and now Jiejie stepping up, but you can see LGD bringing a lot of members over, potentially looking to fight right here. The Drake spawns as well. Top laners have teleport for Zika, not yet for Burdol, so you could have a little bit of a numbers advantage right here for Weibo too.
No flash on support for LGD. Every other summoner spell though is available as Weibo start up their second dragon. Looks like no contest will be the call. LGD feeling confident in their ability to pick up gold on other sides of the map, and they will give up a 2-0 lead in the Drake department.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, right, Burdol's teleport has just come back up and available, but he's obviously going to be a lot less important to a team fight than having the K'Sante jump on in would be. It makes sense to just delay that one, not really try to play it too aggressively. And you can see the teleport now going to be used out of Zika back into the top lane, so he's not really looking to move around the rest of the map. Instead, you have to imagine that Burdol's going to keep trying to push through this lane, or potentially could even just swap down to the bottom side of the map once again.
Really looking for this one is YCX and Heng. The Heng has to use a Tempered Fate. A dis-synergy with the True Shot Barrage. Not going to matter in terms of helping the escape, but certainly would have liked to have a little bit of extra DPS and have the health bars lower on LGD's side. A teleport is coming in from Burdol, maybe a little bit too far forward, but he's got a big shield with the TP buff. And he's going to land a taunt onto Jiejie, forces Ins out a flash away, and he dies to the Shock Blast all the same. 45 on the map right now for LGD. Shield people up as the all-out comes forward on to YCX. Not going to be a kill, though, as Zika will fall to Heng. And it's happening again, Bloxxer. A 2-for-0 for LGD.
And they're just going to keep rolling on forwards into this mid lane. Very low health bars now onto Heng. And the remaining members just about going to be able to mount a defense onto this tower. But Heng still hunting, looking for an accelerated shock blast. Lands it. Oh, okay. That was close right there.
So another 2 kills going over to LGD, and even though this early game looked pretty good for Weibo, they were able to get a kill onto Elk. The rest of the map not looking so lucky. Heng is now 2,000 gold ahead of Jiejie, and it definitely showed as we take a look at this replay.
I thought that the Crescent Guard was going to do what it does, right? Just blocks all of the damage out of Xiaoye, but it doesn't matter because
split. Zika trying to say otherwise, going for the all-out onto Burdol. The Entofo strike will not be dodged this time, and a big kill for the Weibo top laner to get themselves back into this game.
And this is the thing, right? As much as this split push is going to be massive out of Burdol, in the 1v1, all of a sudden Zika going to be in a much better spot to be able to just play aggressive. And picking up that solo kill right there, it's going to force Heng up towards the top side of the map, taking him away from clearing out all of his camps. Unfortunately for Weibo, they don't have Jiejie in the area to potentially try to steal away the Herald, instead looking bot lane.
Tangyuan able to taunt down Xiaohu. He is very tanky now with that Hollow Radiance, specifically against these 2 champions that are in his lane. So, not going to be a threat to be Dovin. Rift Herald is now available. Heng certainly would like to take it, and with this Xiao on the bot side of the map, should be easy pickings.
Indeed it should, and just once again, right, anytime that you find a play out of Weibo, they don't really seem to be able to capitalize on it in the same way that LGD have been able to. I'm really impressed with the macro that they have exhibited so far. So, that being said, Weibo are now going to send multiple members on over, and we could well have another one of these big skirmishing fights.
True Shot Barrage chunks Heng down. This could be Weibo's opportunity to get back into this game. Tempered Fate will stall the taking of the Herald, but Jiejie might have actually wanted to take it down a little bit faster. He's stuck in the pit, and he gets taken down by Shaoye with a double shot. Hook lands onto the Aurora as well. The Herald gets secured by LGD as they continue to get that snowball rolling in this decisive Game 3.
Massive depth charge right there, just keeps members in range of that bullet time, and Xiaoye able to make it work away from the Xin Zhao. The fact that you're now able to grab yourself a couple more kills and the Rift Herald is massive for LGD as they continue accelerating the pace of this game. They're very close to getting these 2 items completed onto all of these key members. The peak of the power of this composition is well within reach, and they are beginning to pull away from Weibo.
Look at this replay here. Heng starting this one off. It looked like a good fight. Another questionable Tempered Fate from Heng. Jiejie looked like he wanted to get in that pit and try to steal this one quickly.
Yeah, but he's just mistimed, and with the Tempered Fate coming on through, no way to be able to. Depth charge was massive right here out of YCX. It keeps Elk inside of the bullet time for so long that he's never able to get away, never able to deal his damage, and just has to run. Now you're going to get the Rift Herald put down into the mid lane, as well as the push from LGD's top player in the bot side. They are just taking gold all across this map.
Certainly a difficult prospect to be down in Group Nirvana for an entire split. You play way less matches than your Ascend counterparts, but there's always the hope, the expectation that at the end of the split, you get a singular best of 5 to prove your worth. to get yourself into playoffs, to get that top 8 spot. And it feels like, Bloxxer, this weekend, those Nirvana teams really took that to heart. They have put up an absolute fight in every single one of these best of 5s. None of them winning less than 2 games against their counterparts that were perceived to be much better than them.
Absolutely, and it's just so nice to see when things have been so one-sided.
Oh, the Hank is the dead. Oh no,
yeah,
Heng
Hank
just one-shot that man.
I mean, he eviscerated him right there. I mean, that's what you can do with Ioma's and Cyclo Sword. Just so powerful at this point, and this is what is reflected in this 4,000 gold lead. The fact that you could just individually blow somebody up. And Hank just going to go back to Great Screen Simulator. Now, Jiejie potentially being hunted for as well. He's fully on vision right now.
It's a huge shock blast. Nice crescent guard to get away from the Two of the Skies, but only going to aid in his retreat away from this Jace jungle, which has become so terrifying here in this game. 4 kills already for Heng, outplaying Jiejie, who has been one of Weibo's best performers all season long.
Jiejie just hasn't been able to get anything going at all throughout this game, and it means that even if Weibo were able to get through this series, that they were able to win themselves and get into playoffs, I think other teams from those playoffs will be really looking at Jiejie as a weak link all of a sudden, which, like you said, is really counter to how things have been so far. So we've got the Baron up and available at this point in the game, and for LGD, with the peak of their power really showing right now, this is where you want to be pushing the pace of the game forward as much as possible, really exerting your presence onto the map. We're seeing that with Heng stepping up into his opponent's jungles, but you want to be doing that overall, and especially if Weibo want to step a little bit too far forwards to keep getting vision onto this Baron, that's a great chance to be able to pick somebody off once again, and then potentially start the Baron for yourselves.
Baron has spawned, and you can see Elk just throwing out those true shot barrages. He can't walk further than his own Raptor Pit at this point because of all of the priority that his team has lost while he has just been forced to watch. 1-0 and 0 hasn't really been a factor in the remainder of these team fights. Who has been a factor is Tangyuan in the mid lane on this Galio, looking for a near solo kill onto Xiaohu, forces the ulti, and Xiaohu will go between worlds and get out of there. But now the tier 2 turret bot lane should become an issue. Nice buffer from Elk to get away from the dredge line, and Zika has now arrived to the fight.
Good pressure coming on through. You can see multiple members of Weibo looking desperately to try to find a way back on into this game, but oh my lord, Heng just doing so much damage at this point, taking huge chunks out of the Hank right now. And Xiaohu returns back to the bot lane, full health again. And LGD, they just keep the pressure up high. They recognize that they are in an incredibly strong spot right now. 2 items in inventory pretty much across the board, and this jungle is not Weibo's.
Nowhere is Weibo's at this point. They're going to have to come back not only from a 2-0 deficit, but for a 5,000 gold lead at the 22-minute mark of this game, and they have a huge flank coming in from Burdol onto the Yorick, forces a flash immediately onto Elk, and the teleport has come in from Xiaohu to try to retaliate. True Shot Barrage takes Burdol low, and he won't go down, but Heng will! That is a big kill onto the big carry for LGD, and Weibo going to try to claw back into this team fight. Bullet time comes out, Xiaohu supposed to flash away, a big double stun comes forward, and the rookie, the Hank, comes up clutch in the mid lane. They'll end up taking down Tangyuan. The kill goes over to the Aurora. It's an ace for nothing. 5-0 as Weibo claimed the Baron.
Burdol thinks that he's playing a big, strong, scary champion rather than the Yorick right here, and just gets bursted down. It baits the remaining members of his team a little bit too far forwards, and Heng also pops a massive team fight right here from Weibo. They're going to get themselves the Baron, and all of a sudden they stabilize in a game that looked like it was slipping straight away from them.
The first Baron buff of this series for your Group Ascend representatives, and it starts with this aggressive flank from Burdol.
I mean, Burdol, what are we doing here, right? Yes, the Yorick has a little bit of survivability at this point with the Maiden up and available, and it does split the members of Weibo, but he just doesn't have the follow-up at this point in the game. You don't end up getting this big ulti in until way too late from Tangyuan as well, and by that point, Heng has already died, like you said, a huge chunk of the damage, and then look, watch this from the Heng. Beautiful right there with the double stun. If he doesn't land that, there's a chance that the rest of this fight is going to work out, but as soon as he lands that double stun, everybody goes down, and the ace comes on through.
And Elk played this beautifully on the back end as well. We were waiting for him to have his moment to show up as the superstar AD carry, the best bot laner of Split 1, and he dealt the most damage in that 5-0 team fight. Baron buff now in the hands of a Weibo Gaming. Dragon up in 20 seconds. They'll try to use this mid lane priority with the empowered minions to get good work-ins around that bot side river.
After that fight, the 5k gold lead was evaporating in front of LGD's eyes, and Weibo, what they've done with it is get themselves onto those 2 item spikes that they desperately needed. 3 items, in fact, for Elk. He is so incredibly strong right now, and like you said, we've had a lot of criticism for him throughout this series, but he is well and truly in position to carry his team.
Dragon gonna get started up by Weibo. We'll see if LGD want to contest. Obviously, the last team fight did not go very well. And extra money has been put into Weibo Gaming's pocket. Shock Blast lands onto the Heng. Burdol throws over the E. The Dark Procession not finding anything. This might get secured by a Jiejie. Now goes Xiaohu in a 1v3. Between worlds onto YCX. The weirding takes him down to 30%. Jiejie trying to finish the job. And Elk does with a Mystic Shot. 1-0 already in the mid lane for Weibo, as they'll be pushing down mid with Soul Point.
Here we go, Weibo finally getting their teeth into this series and pushing forwards right now. Only got minions to play around in this mid lane right now, but with the low health bars, low mana coming on through from the LGD members, they're still just going to be able to keep on pressing forwards. Burdol summons the Maiden in, gives them a little bit of extra support, and it's just going to have to be the bullet time coming on through from Shaoye to try to cut through these minions. The Baron empowered cannon minion, though, still doing work onto this tower. It won't quite be able to take down this mid lane tier 2, but LGD, they are scrambling to try to get back into this one.
And normally you look at a Baron buff without having a inhibitor turret or even a tier 2 turret taken down, and you're like, man, that kind of sucked. But for Weibo, the position that they were in previously, down 5,000 gold to LGD, this is a big win on their part. They're able to stabilize the game, get themselves a 3rd dragon, and sure, they don't even break open a tier 2 turret, but they're still feeling much better than they were a few minutes ago.
Absolutely, and the fact that you've just got these items coming through from Weibo as well, spent so long desperately trying to scrape together enough gold across the lanes to be able to keep up with the purchasing power that LGD had. That 5k gold lead was doing so much for LGD, with a composition that really can't afford to fall behind, that's very squishy overall, doesn't have that much that can just step up and not worry about getting bursted straight down by the Jiejies, the Xiaohus, and the Elks of the world. Things are pretty risky. What they're also kind of lacking is this non-committal engage. You have to send a lot of people very far forwards. If you're not landing all of that poke first from Heng, things are going to be very tricky going on forwards.
Ooh. When he does land it, though, I mean, my goodness,
it hurts
it's
so
definitely
bad.
come into play.
Yes.
The Endless Hunger Omnivamp for Elk is going to help him a little bit, but right now, this poke damage from the Jace is still massive. He still has a 3,000 gold lead over Jiejie, who's still working towards that 3rd item Guardian Angel, but right now, who needs Guardian Angel is Elk in the mid lane, as he's just eating these shock blasts left, right, and center.
And he's got plenty of healing to be able to get himself back up to full as well. Deep teleport coming up through.
Zika gonna just be in a 1v4 immediately, use the Pathmaker Unstoppable to get out of there. A questionable decision without any major objectives available, and Weibo really weren't in a great position to do much with it. They will take the positioning power at the very least.
Yeah, a bit of an odd one. Like you said, no real big objective to play around. If there was a Drake spawning in 30 seconds time, that would be awesome to be able to break away LGD's line and make it so they have to step back. Instead, they just kind of use this ability for nothing, and obviously teleport will take a while to come back up again. Still, Elk's going to be able to complete a 4th item now. He is incredibly strong at this point in the game, and as we've seen, he's pretty squishy, taking a lot from the Shock Blast, but when he sits and is able to just deal his damage in these team fights, absolute massive carry right here for Weibo.
We don't have comms available here in our LPL broadcast, but I'd imagine what's going on right now is these teams saying, okay, game is pretty close right now, we got a dragon in minute 45, don't do anything stupid before that, right? Weibo gonna want to make sure they secure Soul Point. LGD probably still feels decent in these team fights, with Heng being in such a powerful position and the bullet time still being able to do some work. Imagine not much is going to happen before then. Xiaohu able to dash on out of there to get away from the threat of the Galio.
See both teams posturing heavily around this Baron. 40 seconds until it's going to come up onto the Rift. And right now, Weibo got a little bit of extra push coming on through. Looks like they're going to be able to grab the Scuttle Crab.
Temper Fate onto YCX, and 2 teleports will come in, both from the mid laners, formerly of RNG, now of the opposite sides of the Rift. Between Worlds comes forward. Xiaohu looking to try to one-shot Shaoye and nearly does it, but the Heng about to nearly do the deed as well. Shaoye is still alive. He's at 1 HP. Finally, Zika will end up finishing the job. YCX the next target. Jiejie ends up getting Tangyuan on the back end, and it's a 4v2 on the map for Weibo Gaming. They'll get a knock-up onto Burdol. Magical Journey goes forward from the Heng. It'll be a double kill in for the Yorick, but only Heng remains on the other side.
Yeah, you've still got Heng available, so going straight towards this Baron could still be potentially a little bit risky. I don't think they're going to mind, though, heading straight on over. You can see Heng even taking a decent chunk away by that True Shot Barrage. This should just be the Baron going straight on over to Weibo Gaming, and it looks like they have finally woken up. The Tiger has awoken, and things looking up for the Group Ascend team.
Yeah, maybe they're on American time.
Clearly.
Sun's starting to rise here, starting to rise for Weibo as well.
This is just unfortunate right here on YCX. Gets himself pretty badly caught, and then Weibo throws everything in the kitchen sink trying to kill Shaoye. I mean, the Between Worlds instantly taking the majority of the health away from Shaoye. As actually we jump on into the picture-in-picture where Heng trying desperately to run for his life. He will live, but that does mean he has given up positioning around this Drake.
Yep, the second Baron in the hands of Weibo, and that means they'll have good positioning for this eventual Infernal Soul if they can take it down. Tangyuan blast cones over the wall. LGD knows they need to try to stop this or the game will just end. Jiejie going to try to secure this smite. Does have the 3 talent strike, uses them to Tangyuan the Crescent Guard as well. Burdol trying to zone Xiaohu off on the back end, on the bottom side of your screen. Hook lands on to the Heng. Between Worlds finds all 4. Xiaohu looking to try to eviscerate him.
Oh, he doesn't get him!
One shot on his own self. It's going to be the all-out coming forward from Zika. They'll be able to take down Tangyuan, but the fight is certainly not over just yet. In goes Heng, but he goes to the skies and to the grave. Zika finishes off the fight. It's an ace for Weibo. Screw the soul. They're going for the end.
It's going to be a quadra kill in the end for Elk, and they are pushing straight on forward. Still got a little bit left of this Baron buff, and things are going to calm down right here. We are going to get a game number 4 between LGD and Weibo Gaming. LGD with the composition just didn't work out for them, and one fight where they get caught out gives all of the momentum over.
Hold on. We saw this happen in our last series, Bloxxer.
Okay,
Death timers are ticking. It's 10 seconds on Shaoye, 4 on YCX, and Weibo decide they do not want to play victim to a second straight base defense in the Night's Rivals Day on LPL English. They will instead retreat to the Dragon. They already have the soul, I should say, so they're going to back away with a big lead opened up for themselves.
And they are correct to do this, right? I think they potentially could have ended the game right there, but there's no reason to throw it all away. Like I said, Soul already completed. They've got themselves the Baron falling off relatively soon, right? They've got a little while to just head back to base, spend a bit more gold, and spend gold they do. The tracking coming on through an Elk. Now with so many items, but we are going to jump into a pause, unfortunately.
Just when things were getting good, man, for Weibo. Oh, no. Hopefully everything's alright and we'll be back in the game shortly, but things turned on its head a little bit. It was a 5,000 gold lead Bloxxer for LGD about 20 minutes into that one. And Weibo said, we're done losing, at least for now.
Yeah, indeed. And the fact that they were able to pull this one back so well is really impressive, but with a composition I really liked overall. I think we're getting to see time and time again why it is that you don't want to give the Xin over to a team when you want to pick yourself up this misfortune. They could have very easily banned it away, right? You knew you had the misfortune and you knew that your opponents like to be able to play the Xin. Just pops the ult in, it doesn't matter. You're not able to play the rest of these team fights. To be fair though, it's not just on Shaoye in this game. I mean, everybody from Weibo seems to have really woken up. Specifically, Xiaohu is playing super aggressively right now on this Aurora, and it's just sending Shaoye spread to the 4 corners. He can't sit and hit in any real situation.
Yeah, and we said the team fighting for Weibo might not be the most traditional, but it will be disruptive in the full 5v5, and that's exactly what we have seen. K'Sante diving the backline, Jiejie doing the same, and then you just have Elk jumping all over the place, being basically impossible to catch on this Ezreal. He has had a really great last few minutes, as you mentioned, a quadra kill around that soul fight at the Dragon. And this is the Elk that we have been hoping to see all day long. The big carry, ADC for Weibo, who put the team on his back to a top 3 finish, now just trying to get to the top 4 of this Night's Rivals tournament by winning this series.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, this pause, I mean, how are these players feeling right now? Because for LGD, you are so close to being able to complete this incredible sweep of games and take Weibo out, but you've got a composition that just isn't firing on all cylinders right now. Burdol just isn't strong enough to be able to step up right here on the Yorick. It's the big problem I have with the Yorick. It needs a lot of help early on, and then if it doesn't get super far ahead, you're not particularly tanky, you don't deal that much damage overall. Your split push is still pretty good, but that's not enough to rely on at this level of competition when your opponents could communicate effectively and not just allow a Yorick to take 4 towers like you experience in your solo queue games. You can't even talk to each other during pauses either. You're sat there in silence as well. It's just such a rough situation.
Man, yeah, and just a reminder for everybody as well. We're playing online for Night's Rivals. I think we'll be back in studio for at least once we get into the deep rounds of the LPL playoffs. And so that could mean always tech issues maybe take a little bit longer to try to solve with the referees not necessarily being on site. Hopefully we have this issue resolved soon. And as you mentioned, the Weibo team maybe wants to keep themselves going with this momentum. The pause hopefully doesn't end up hurting any of that here in this game.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. I mean, if you're just joining us right now, we don't have any information about why the pause is, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll get back in nice and quickly. But this is a game that Weibo absolutely should win. They're up by a huge chunk of gold. I think it's nearing a 10,000 mark at this point. They've gotten themselves 2 Barons in this game. They are up by Soul as well. And we're threatening onto the Nexus, decided not to overpush and instead have taken some resets, which makes a lot of sense in this situation for them. And for LGD, they've kind of got nothing really to play around. They need a pop-off performance to come through from somebody, but nobody's been able to step up to the plate quite yet in this one.
Not just yet. I mean, we've seen Heng have some good early game skirmishes and snowball his lead into a lot, but it can't just be the Jace. Other players are going to have to contribute as well. Tangyuan on the Galio, not a ton of damage. Yorick for Burdol, really mostly focused on split pushing. It's been Shaoye on the MF that really needs to be able to contribute to some of the damage. And as you mentioned a couple of minutes ago when we were discussing how these teamfights have been going, Bloxxer, the disruption for Weibo makes it so difficult for Shaoye to play the game.
Yeah, exactly. Shaoye just isn't able to play because as soon as he tries to set up and deal damage, either you end up with that Crescent Guard coming up and now you can't deal any damage to one of the key members you need to be killing, or you end up with the Between Worlds being popped and you're just getting jumped on by an Aurora, and at this point, you're doing so much damage out here. You have to be so careful to position correctly, and I just don't know how you square positioning in a way that doesn't get you killed with positioning in a way that allows you to deal damage as Shaoye. I don't know that there's an actual place in any of these team fights for both of those things to happen at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's definitely looking not good for LGD. I think overall in the series, though, they're still feeling pretty confident, right? The fact that each of these 2 games that they won were so one-sided, and this one is the longest game that we have played so far, certainly a good sign for them. They've been able to get out to those mid-game leads, and Weibo specifically have been able to lock in those team fighting fundamentals, that the experience level that you get with some of these players coming in, like Zika, like Elk, like Xiaohu, who's been a part of the competitive scene for over a decade at this point. That's where that really ends up shining, in these like clutch moments. That's what Weibo's been able to do really well, at least so far in this game.
I mean, we can talk about it, right? If Weibo are able to win this game and start waking back up, as we've been saying, start building some momentum back through, a reverse sweep right here would be insane. It would be insane that they'd even need to do it to win versus LGD, but it would be such a great cap-off to what has been an insane Night's Rivals in general.
I saw Jiejie's name on the bottom ticker. Likely a tech issue with him. Hopefully that gets resolved soon. But for now, still just waiting out game number 3 between Weibo and LGD. It's been a crazy weekend so far, Bloxxer. 2 of our 3 Nirvana teams end up advancing. The one that doesn't is LNG against the 1-13 team WE. And LGD look like they're right on the doorstep as well, albeit maybe not in this game.
No, not quite in this one. Again, I'll keep coming back to it. I don't love the draft in this game out of LGD. I think they left themselves with a lot to do early on, and as much as they did do it, the second that somebody gets caught a little bit too far out of position, it kind of just tanks them in that situation, which is always unfortunate, and hopefully we will get back into this game to see how this one resolves. If it does end up being a Weibo win as it looks like, I don't think that's particularly indicative of the fact that Weibo are going to be able to come back and win this series. Maybe they have fully woken up, as we've been saying, but LGD have just looked far more dominant, and the fact that even in this game they were able to get themselves about a 5k gold lead really gives me quite a lot of faith in this team going forwards to be able to complete this massive upset versus a Group of Sen team.
Yeah, again, the best finish that most of these players have ended up having is top 10. They have not been, specifically Burdol and Xiaoye here in the LPL, above a top 8 finish in the league. Say the same for players like YCX, who have been a part of LGD their entire careers. Heng on Team WE in the past, then over to OMG, and then finally here. And even Xiaoye, who, again, a bit of a franchise player here at this point, and Tangyuan, formerly of RNG. When you compare the experience levels of these two teams, it's very different, and LGD have the chance to almost usurp some of these titans that have been to Worlds in the past, to have all this awesome experience, previously.
And I mean, it's all about setting your expectations right here. I think LGD coming into this split, at least looking from the outside in, I would have been very happy with them just making top 4 and then getting eviscerated by a Group of Sen team. And I don't know that ownership would really have been thinking that much beyond, right? That's what has usually happened to all of these Group Nirvana teams. They don't do very well once they get into the top 4 spots, but you at least then get to play the next split. So that is what you would have really been looking towards for them. And the fact that they are so close to going in is awesome.
Yes, I see League of Legends. We're back into things. 31 minutes in. Again, the longest game of this series so far. Certainly not of the day, though. As that series that went before us, EDG and IP, they had some long bangers. This might be another one in the works.
Absolutely it is, and as you saw along the bottom of the screen, Jiejie had a little bit of a technical issue. Hopefully that one has been resolved as we head back out onto the Rift. Again, another just quick recap coming on through. Only 30 seconds left on this Baron and buff. More importantly, right, we've got 4 minutes until the Elder is going to be up and available. For Weibo, they win one more fight, and they are not going to need the Elder to close this game out.
Yeah, it could just be one more team fight here. They have a giant wave on this top lane. Going to tear down the tier 1 nearly instantaneously, and they have Zika pushing down mid at the same time. The waves will coalesce around the tier 3 turrets, and Tangyuan, who is pushing bot, will have to go for a reset.
4 seconds until we have the Baron buff fall off, so...
A huge chunk of damage. Lands onto Shaoye already, and Heng gets one shot right after the Tempered Fate. Fed Jace is gone, and Weibo once again have a numbers advantage. Jiejie lands a knockup onto the Nautilus and takes him down. Zika taken very low, but Tangyuan going to be the next target here for Weibo Gaming. Elk lands the final kill, and it's only 2 members of LGD to try to defend the base.
And they're just going to be able to take down these inhibitor towers so incredibly quickly. Xiaoye is really going to have to be on him if he wants any hope of keeping this game going. Very unlikely to be able to do so. The Maiden is going to fall. Pops the ulti just to be able to clear out the wave, but I don't know how much that's really going to buy you any time as Elk hits these towers like a truck.
2 ranged minions here still. Xiaoye has to flash away. Jiejie looking for the MF. Pops the barrier. Not going to be enough. The True Shot barrage comes down from Elk. The game will end, and the series will not. Weibo force a game 4.
There we go. Weibo finally show us that they have arrived. They are playing the game, you know, plug in the monitors and the keyboards and bring us through what is a pretty big banger of a game, back and forth overall, but one team fight during the mid game, and Weibo never looked back.
They played that game from 20 minutes on beautifully. Exceptional team fights, exactly what we wanted to see. The Heng had some questionable Bard plays, but it feels like he's starting to learn how to mesh with this experienced roster. Those Tempered Fates, those double stuns at the very end of those team fights ended up becoming crucial, allowing specifically for Elk to have an MVP-worthy game.
Yeah, absolutely, and it really is good that we get another game, right? Nobody wants the 3-0s as much as it's more exciting when the 3-0 is from the team that you're not expecting to do well and it's a bit of an upset. I love that we get to at least go to a game number 4. Weibo have shown us some fight back, and for LGD, just not a good game, not a good draft overall, and the execution of it was fine, but the problems compositionally really rose up during the mid to late game, and they just really couldn't get through the front line. They didn't have enough damage when they were able to try to land a little bit through. Not ideal from them, and I think a pretty easy game to take, ball up, throw away, and just focus on the next one.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have those games. LGD certainly had some of them in their history throughout Group Nirvana.
Yeah.
remember, they were a team that did not have a ton of expectations going into the split. They finished bottom 2 in their bottom group in split number 1. But then they got off to a bit of a hot start and kept things going to get to a 3-2 record and now get themselves to here. So they've faced adversity this season before. This group of 5, even with Burdol, have been down and now are looking to try to come back a rebound here from this one game. But for Weibo, they finally got a little bit of that old magic, and that's exactly what they've been looking for.
Whatever happens now, they will not have had as embarrassing a Knights rivals as IG had, right? That's not the bar you want to be looking towards, but as fans, as spectators, we're always going to rank who had the worst look, and IG now solidify their spot as the worst Group Ascend team in this Knights rivals. A truly insane thing to really be looking at, and I wonder if we're going to end up with the sort of full look of all of the results that we could really have ended up having, right? We've had games go all the way to 5, we've had the 3-0, obviously, in the Thunder Talk and IG matchup. Will this one end right here at 4?
LGD would certainly like that, but it's going to have to come with some big changes going into this next one. Stopping Elk is going to be, I think, the big thing on everybody's minds. LGD was able to really make this superstar player obsolete in those first 2 games based off of their play, specifically from the top side of the map. Didn't end up carrying to that same degree, even though Heng had a great game on the Jace jungle. Not a ton of setup, not a ton of engage, specifically compared to the other champions that Heng was playing in this series. So
yeah,
maybe just getting some more playmaking out of the jungle position could be what LGD need.
Absolutely, because you've once again seen that Jiejie is not particularly aggressive early on. Even right here on the Xin Zhao was quite slow to really get off of the ground, but once he did get going, things were looking a heck of a lot better, and you can see it in the goal graph, right? LGD were really building towards something, but they had their 2-item power spike. They weren't really going to get that much stronger overall, and all of a sudden, Weibo were able to grab a couple of items into their back pockets, and things flipped on their head. Elk specifically had an incredible game, as you said, right? It should be the MVP for him in this one. He was awesome, 9-0-8, the overall scoreline for him. But I don't think we could really ignore what it was that Xiaohu was able to do, because those between worlds, even if he didn't end up getting a lot of kills overall, were massive for destabilizing what LGD wanted to do.
Yeah, they never really got their full-on, team fight with the Galio, the Nautilus, the MF. Sure, the Yorick doesn't necessarily fit into that category, but really for Weibo, started here on the top side of the map. Zika able to get this solo kill, finally breaking out in this series that he's been harassed by Burdol all day long.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and the fact that he was able to fight back right here is going to be pretty big, and obviously we've got to remember, right, this is going to be a fearless best of 5, so we are losing a lot of the top tier of champions, a lot of the most comfortable champions for all of these guys, and the amount of games that you end up playing in Group Nirvana is so much less, and it means that you just ended up playing a lot less champions overall. So how much is LGD particularly well versed in playing at this point? When you have a flick through at just how many games on different champions you had, there's always about 3 or 4 less champions for these Group Nirvana teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I was looking through prep and stuff like that, no champion by any of these players has really played more than twice, and they still had less experience or less of a pool than Weibo did, just because of the sheer number of games that were played.
Yeah, the most was 3, and that was only by a couple of people. There were 3 Rumbles for Burdol, there was 3 Skarners for Heng, so that could potentially be something fun, and then 3 of the Lucian, I think it was, for Shaoye. The most played champions for the other guys were 7 or 8 coming through for the teams in Group Ascend, and they still played more champions, like you said. So it's just a much smaller pool that you've had to play, that you've been forced to play, and as we get deeper on into these best of 5s, I do wonder how much that is going to affect these teams that have had less practice, that have had less game time on these big picks, that just haven't been forced to play as many games. Group Nirvana is brutal. You get 1 round robin with less teams, and then you're done.
But you get that one decisive series against a Group Ascend team. That's how high pressure these Knights rivals are. Split 1 was a little bit different with our format being like a double elimination, but this just really adds to the stakes. It doesn't matter how bad you do, as long as you sneak into this Knights rivals event, you too could make it into the playoff stage. We saw it happen with Thunder Talk. We saw it happen just a few hours ago with Edward Gaming. LGD going to try to do the same, but Weibo putting a stop to that at least for now. Absolutely
they do. So looking on forwards into this next game. for LGD, they just need something that I think plays a little bit more proactively early on, and they just needed something a little bit tankier overall to be able to give them a true frontliner, because Burdol and Tangyuan, it just really didn't work out. I put a lot of the blame really on the Yorick. Obviously, we can't now see the Yorick again, but we really are getting into the depths of these champion pools, so for them, they're going to be reaching into stuff we haven't really seen so far. For Weibo, I love it. I love the fact that they had something that a really strong identity. You knew who they were going to play around. It was Elk, and in this game, they were actually able to make that work by not having Jiejie bullied around during the early game.
Yeah, Jiejie finally was able to play League of Legends this time around in the early game. Even though he got put pretty far behind, at least he was able to clear his own jungle, get out of the map, make proactive plays alongside the rest of his team, which is exactly the facilitating role that he needs to be in for Weibo to continue to perform in this series and to get themselves into playoffs where they finished third, just a split ago.
Yeah.
That's how crazy this is. They're going to need a reverse sweep to at least even get back into the top 8 at this point. LGD going to look to put a stop to that as we head to a break in a few short minutes. We're waiting for our player of the game right now. Bloxxer, I think it'll be probably Elk.
I'd give it to Elk in this situation. I think he was really popping off right here, and it's particularly nice considering how much he was struggling in the previous couple of games. Specifically that Yunara game, they put so much on him to try get him to carry the game, and he was just never able to unlock. Totally not the case in this game.
Yeah, well done to the Weibo bottom laner, finally breaking out here in this third game of Knight's Arrivals. Our final series of the day is going to go on just a little bit longer. Heading to a short break. When we come back, we'll see a game